Hey, welcome back to the show. I thought today we'll just check out Megadeth's classic album Youthanasia from 1994. We'll just go into the tone a little bit, talk about the riffs, talk about the album. I think it's absolutely a killer album and we'll just get into it. This to me is an absolute classic Megadeth album. I had the album documentary on VHS tape as a kid and I absolutely just loved it. I loved the way that they just captured the whole studio vibe. It showed me enough and I was absolutely captivated in just the way that they worked in the studio and they were recording parts and Nick Menz's drum tracks on this were just really well written. They were just really good. They sounded huge. And I think for that matter, all the guys on the record just played a huge part making that album really cool. I think there was no one that just stood out. They all just had their own little parts and their own voices. And I think it was a huge collaborative effort. And Marty and Dave simplified some of those riffs and they slowed things down a little bit from previous albums. But I think the nuances and complexities were really there. They're a lot more subtle, but they're just really cool. And it's great to listen to this day. As for the guitar tone, I'm using the Victory VX Kraken today. Channel 1 on this amp's just got a really great foundation, almost like a JCM 800. It's a little bit warmer, a little bit richer, but it's just a great foundation tone and just has the right elements, I think, to make this guitar tone possible. So to assist in the tone, just the pedals and the routing I've got going on today, I've got the MXR 6 band, that's in the front of the amp. I've also got the MXR Zakwild overdrive running through the front of the amp. The Fortin Zool Plus noise gate, that's going through the effects loop as well as the key in key through feature. It's really cool noise gate, and in the effects loop I've got the Master Effects Puppet Master EQ, and that's really just there to boost some of the bass and a little bit of that sizzle on the treble. I'm not scooping any of the mids out of this. The basic tone just coming out of the amp, if I turn off the pedals, you can hear that's just a really crunchy and dry foundation for a tone like this. A lot of tones that I dial in for these classic metal riffs really start with a fairly low gain setting on an amp. I find it just gives you a great foundation just to add boost to on top, just create your overdriven tones. And if you've got a similar tone to that, just boosting it with an overdrive just really helps getting this tone. And outputting the signal today, I'm going through the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X, just simulating a Dave Mustaine 412 with V30s inside and an SM57 just pushed up to it. There's presets for that in the description. And to get that foundation rhythm tone to really sound like the guitar tracks on the album, first thing I'll do is just turn on the Zakwild overdrive. And I'm just boosting a little bit here, but you'll just see it gets a bit closer. You can hear there it gets you pretty close to that album tone, but the guitars on that album, it just sounds to me like those amps were just cranked up so loud. The bass is just huge. It's almost to the point where it's starting to fart out and it's getting really flabby. And there's just a real sharpness on the treble at the very top. It's almost like in the studio it would have been painful for their ears. But to try and simulate that style thing, I'll be using the Puppet Master EQ just through the effects loop now. And you can see I'm just boosting up the bass a fair bit. I'm not doing anything to the mids. It looks like it's all the way down, but this is actually 0 dB. And for the trebles, I'm just bringing them up ever so slightly. And when I kick that in, and the effect that gives to the amp is it just makes things sound like it's just really loud and it's pushing the microphone. It just adds a really cool texture to this guitar tone and just simulates everything just absolutely being cranked. And when you layer those guitars, you just get some really cool tones. And for the guitars that I've used today, I've got my 2019 Jackson KV and I've got my Jackson RR 2007 model. That's got TB4 SH2 pickups in it, and this has Dave Mustaine's signature thrash factor pickups from Seymour Duncan. The bridge pickup is based off the standard JB and it's El Nico pickup, but it's just got a fair bit more aggression going on. It's a lot choppier, it's a lot harsher on the ears, it's more treble. And I find just to make it sound like the JB and just not being too much, I just crack the tone back just slightly and it just really seems to warm things out and really sound like the JB. I think this is just a really classic album from Megadeth. I think it came at the right time. I think it's their answer. I always thought of it as their answer to the Black Album by Metallica. It just had like massive production. The songs are just really good. They're written in a way that they could almost be played on the radio. They've got that standard sort of sequence about them, but they stand up really well to this day in a live setting. I just think they're really hooky, they're really catchy. And the guitar parts, even though they weren't all thrashy and full bore like previous albums, I think they just sat together really well. There really were some complex harmonies. They were just really well written. And this came out and I could actually play some of those guitar riffs. I went and bought the book and I just thought it was really cool, and it's really nostalgic now that I look back on it, especially when I watched that DVD again just the other day. It didn't come across like Megadeth is all Dave Mustaine. Each of those guys in it really wanted this album. I think they all had really great creativity to add to it. It's just a fantastic production. And the trick that I found to get that solo tone for the record, apart from a whole heap of reverb that I've just added later in Logic, is just the MXR 6-band EQ on top of everything. It's stacked behind the MXR overdrive. It really is just boosted around that 800 Hertz. It adds a fairly organic element to that guitar tone. It adds like this abrasive edge on the top. It's a little bit shrill, but I think it's really cool and it just seems to sit in the mix really nicely. And something else to mention in the video before I wind it up, about 3 months ago, I told you that Stringjoy sent me out some strings and I pretty much put them on all my guitars, but the very first string broke just the other day. It was on the Jackson RR5, but I just wanted to let you guys know that it's the only guitar so far that I've had one break. I don't play it all the time, but I do play it enough that I think strings should have snapped by now. But all that being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video today. I absolutely love playing all these riffs. I really didn't even want to make the video today. I almost wanted to push it back another week and just enjoy it for a whole another week and just play the riffs and solos, and super nostalgic for me. But go ahead, watch the DVD again. It's on YouTube. It's really cool. And take care, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.